Boom, what is up, familia? Dayspring here to review X-Men, the Hellfire Gala slash Murder. This is the first time that I am not actively following the comic books, but instead tuning in to the animated series every week. Now, I was talking about this a couple of days ago with a friend that my love for the X-Men stemmed from the comic books, and everything else has been secondary. And as much as I love the movies, as much as I love all of the animated shows that we have gotten, well, most of the movies and most of the shows that we've gotten, my love for the X-Men stemmed from the comic books. And since 1993, when I picked up that Rogue miniseries with the Terry Dodson cover of her looking like Superman just flying through, I have been hooked on the comics ever since. And yeah, I mean, after Onslaught, like around the Zero Tolerance 12 era, I took a little break and came back with Morrison. But for like the last 26 years, I have been picking up weekly comics. And now I no longer am. There were a lot of cracks in the foundation in Krakoa. I thought Krakoa, Hoxpox, the Jonathan Hickman first kickoff to the Krakoan age was really good. There were some cracks in Dawn of X, but as we kept going through the Krakoan era, the books got worse and worse. And I think one of the strengths of the X-Men is they have a wonderful metaphor. These characters speak directly to individuals, but also I think another great strength of the IP is the strong sci-fi, fantasy, and literary elements. The X-Men just fires on all cylinders when they're allowed to be an IP that you speak up to your audience. Towards the end of Krakoa, it was just gibberish, and they definitely needed to reboot the X-Men, but reboot with Krakoa being the new status quo, right? Like, I think Krakoa as a status quo is great. From the ashes, like, I think the era we're in right now is called Shadows of Tomorrow. As CB Cebulski told me, it was not a reboot, just a different chapter, I guess, is what he was trying to mean. There's a lot of talk out there about Marvel and Webtoon, and in San Diego, we saw evidence of that with X-Men Korea coming. The big rumor is, and for those of you who don't know, is that with Marvel Publishing, packing up their bags in New York and moving over to the West Coast, to Burbank on the Disney offices lot, that we are going to see a shift in how many comic books are published monthly in their approach, and perhaps Webtoon is going to be given the X-Men IP to publish books. I don't think that seems like really extreme, but I do think we're going to see a lot more collaborations with Webtoon. We know CB Cebulski is going to Japan to be the head of Asia editor, and we're going to be seeing some manga initiatives. But again, my love is the 616 comics. So we get X-Men, the Hellfire Murder. We're going to go through it here together as a familia. I've already read it. Here are my general thoughts. It's okay. This is a step up, a big step up from X-Manhunt and the giant size X-Men 50th anniversary. So I hated those. I thought those were flat out bad events for the X-Men, not even worth your read. So we can dive in here and we can chat about it. One of the things that is pretty evident to me with the X-Men comics as of recent is I don't believe for a second that everyone who is writing the X books are actual fans of the X-Men. I think they probably picked up a couple issues during the Krakoan era, but we're not seeing people who have a deep love for these characters and know their histories inside and out. It's just the way you write a character is very telling to the reader, how the writer knows the ins and outs of the character. And of course, you can make leaps. You can take these characters and modernize them for, newer audiences. That's completely fine. Those are not my qualms here. But I think what I'm seeing in this issue is that with the exception of the obvious, writers who know their X-Men history, I'm going to say the majority of the writers here just have read X-Men via Krakoa. and probably have never read in great detail the way that a lot of us fans do. And that's a shame because you have folks like Chris Claremont, Scott Lobdell. I mean, I'm still an X-Men fan because of Scott Lobdell, but Scott Lobdell, Grant Morrison, Mike Carey, these are writers who truly knew their X-Men history. And yeah, of course, they may have gotten a couple of things wrong here and there. Of course, they took the IP into a different direction, but you could follow along with their logic. That's my overall first impression. We're back with the Hellfire Gala of sorts. Have you been excited? Are you excited to see the Hellfire Gala return? I polled folks on Power of X-Men, and about 66% of people did not read this issue versus 34% of people who've read it. Now, that's not good because we are a channel and a social media page called Power of X-Men. 99.9% of people who follow us are diehard X-Men fans or X-Men fans of some sort. So the fact that over 60% did not buy this issue versus folks who are tuning into X-Men 97, that is about 90%. So people are watching the animated series more than actually picking up the comic books. And again, that to me is mind-boggling, and I'm among them. So it's mind-boggling to me because I love the comic books. For me, I feel comic books are the greatest medium to tell a story. I love the marriage of text and art put together to tell a beautiful story. You get everything in a good comic. So it hurts when I tell you it hurts that I am not tuning in monthly, that I don't have that addiction to a series, to a monthly comic, that I cannot wait to get the next issue. I mean, I remember Messiah Complex. I remember Second Coming. I remember even IVX, for as bad as IVX was. Oh, House of X, Powers of 10, Jonathan Hickman, speaking of Krakoa, could not wait for the next issues to come out. So it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that we are in this position. Obviously, we have Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out, and a certain person is rumored to be in the movie. Let's see how that unfolds. You know, no spoilers here, but let's see how that unfolds. I hope that reignites a passion for the X-Men IP and we get better comics, right? X-Men 97, to whatever degree you feel of it, people are talking about it. People are somewhat watching it. Not the mainstream that season 1 had, but season 2, folks are X-Men fans. Let's say that X-Men fans are engaged. But Hellfire Murder, not many people are tuning in. And again, the Hellfire Galas were so popular. All right, so there's been a murder, and it's Sebastian Shaw right there. Sebastian, I'm sorry to say you're about to be murdered. And Sebastian Shaw just summons people to his Hellfire Gala, and it's a mystery as to why everyone's there. So they're going to be cloaked in masquerade costumes, thanks to little nanonite sentinels. I'm going to say sentinels, but no, that's for Morrison. But little nanonites with AI that's going to tailor the costume to the person. Whatever, it's comics. And he has psychic dampers everywhere, so psychics can't use their powers. I'm like, okay, you're doing everything in your power here to tell us why they're in costume, why Emma and Psylocke can't just use their psychic powers to figure everything out. But, you know, that's fine. You need that for the plot. But Sebastian Shaw summons mutants and says that there is a sickness in mutant kind, that people are living hopeless, and he himself was just in gray milk in prison, and now that he's out, he wants to bring people together, and at the end of the night, they're going to have to make a choice. Those of you holding an X gene are going to have to make a choice. So transform yourselves, let the masquerade begin, and here you go. Now, if you're going to do a story, a murder story surrounding Sebastian Shaw, Emma Grace Frost needs to be front and center in this, okay? And she is, don't get me wrong, and we're going to get into the Emma of all of it. But this panel right here where it's Shaw talking, there's Emma next to Cyclops, fine, she's there. But then you start going through these panels here, and Emma's in the background. Like, look at her behind Rogue, look at her behind Temper, which, by the way, that seems to be a little bit of a continuity error there because Temper comes in later in the story. So again, it's just sloppy. Where are the editors here? Again, like, it's not just about telling a story when you're doing an IP, right? You have to know these characters. I'm sorry to keep stressing that point. I think all the X-Men, even Rogue, even though Rogue is front and center, even Cyclops, even though he's front and center, they know Emma's history with Shaw. They would let Emma take the lead here. And, if you're going to do a murder mystery, great, but do a murder mystery. There's not much elements here for the reader to participate in the murder mystery, right? Like a really good book that's a murder mystery, the writer is weaving in clues, weaving in suspects, not just throwing things here. And the characters are smart. This is another thing that we're going to get into. The characters in this aren't smart. All right, so the masquerade begins. Here are the X-Men, Ransom, Wolverine, Jubilee, Rogue, and Gambit in these costumes. The art is fine. The art is beautiful here. Again, I do want to make a little bit of a general statement here that, when you're hiring artists to illustrate these books, they're at the mercy of the writer, they're at the mercy of the editor, they're at the mercy of whatever the publisher wants. So any criticisms we have, we understand a lot of these folks are freelancers and they're doing the best they can. But the art here is obviously very beautiful, very kinetic. They're the little nanos that transform them into costumes. What do you think of these costumes? They just I don't know, like Gambit, like wouldn't Gambit have more Wolverine's costume? Like Gambit's like your sexy, mutant. Wolverine is also sexy, not taking it away, but I think Wolverine would take himself a bit more seriously than having that kind of costume with the claw collar and like the bare chest, Jubilee's looks great. Rogue looks great. Ransom looks great too. I mean, it's almost like a gag with Wolverine. But yeah, so they realize they're now in costume. And look, here's Temper. So you see Temper on this page, and then there she is on this first page, right next to Emma. It really is just odd to me. It's really odd to me that someone didn't flag that. Again, where are the editors? Where are your proofreaders? Where are your fact checkers? Like, it's just so it's just lazy. I'm trying to zoom in on it. There she is. It's just lazy writing, lazy everything. Like, just do some quality check, like be passionate. We live in the age of social media. People devour every single panel. But anyways, so Temper comes in. She looks great. Oh my God, I can't get over how great Temper looks. Like, I want that to be her standard costume. There's Cyclops with absolutely no pride left. He's here like Rogue comes in with like a champagne and he's here like, I don't drink, Rogue. And she's like, good, sugar, because these are for me. The person writing Rogue, there are multiple writers on this, but everyone writing Rogue in this issue, they're just using Lenore Zan's voice. Like, take a shot every time she says sugar. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's Rogue. She should say sugar. But like, it's like with Emma, like darling, when you put it at the end of every statement, it's like, again, just omit it. You know what I mean? Just, I'm from Miami, so we say bro to everyone. We call our moms bro. We call our abuelas bro. We call our boyfriends bro. We call our girlfriends bro. I'm like, bro, what's going on? You know what I mean? I call my clients bro if I have a gig in Miami. So I get it, but I think it's excessive when you're reading it. And this is where your editors, you need a good editor. Hopefully now with the change in editorial direction, we're going to get stronger editors. Well, I don't know. We're moving to Burbank. So I don't think there are many editors, good quality book editors out on the West Coast because book publishing is predominantly in New York. I think you have good film editors, good TV editors, social media editors, but like book editors, I think that's strictly, most of that talent comes to New York. All right. So Temper makes it into the Hellfire Gala. And then we cut to a conversation between Shaw and Mr. Sinister. And Mr. Sinister's like, I don't know what game you're playing, but I just don't want to be a part of it. And that is when Shaw has a conversation with Angel, and Angel's like, was it your idea to put the angel and a devil? Such cheesy. Like, again, if they were kids, like actual children, like people below the ages of 18 reading these comics, I would understand the cheesier dialogue. But predominantly the folks reading X books right now are in their 20s through their 50s, right? It's older millennials, it's the Gen Zs who are discovering the X-Men following Krakoa. Those are the people who are actually reading these comics. So you got to write, you got to be a good writer on this. Sorry. Storm looks fabulous. Look at Storm. And this is Quanin there. She says, you know, you have all of these machines for security and dampening our psychic powers. However, Emma and I can overload the system if we need to. And, you know, I don't know how I feel about Shaw having technology that can surpass Quanin's and Emma's psychic abilities. You know, when you have a character like Jean or Professor X, they are truly Omega level psychics that can just destroy everything, you know, any security system. But I would say, given that they've been Onslaught and Phoenix, Dark Phoenix in the past, they have a reckless use of their higher power set. What make Psylocke and Emma Grace Frost formidable opponents is that what they lack in raw power, they make up for it in skill with a greater mastery of their powers. So I would argue, yes, Jean is far stronger than Emma. However, Emma is more cunning and skilled at using her powers than Jean is, right? That's where you get into like really interesting conversations. So again, Quanin and Emma, I think, would just be like, hey, nice try, Shaw. We disabled your system. Next. You know, that's sort of where I would go with it. Also, Psylocke is a psychic, or excuse me, a telekinetic. She could just literally physically destroy those psychic power dampers. You know, they've done murder mysteries in the past. In X-Men, we had obviously Wanda die during Trial of Magneto during that Hellfire gala. We've had murder at the mansion. So there are ways that you could just write around having psychics. Again, it requires the writer to think a little bit outside of the box, right? Like, hey, we've scanned the room. We don't know why we can't pinpoint the murderer. There's so many jumbled thoughts. We can't make sense of everything. You know, we're doing our best. It's going to take us a minute here, right? That's how, you know, saying that, oh, we have psychic dampers around. And again, by the way, by the time we reach the end of the story, it's going to be a frivolous thing. But anyway, so there are Psylocke and Cyclops getting hot and heavy. I'm kind of confused by this. I'm not following Jed McKay's X-Men closely, so please, in the comments, you guys let me know. Are Psylocke and Cyclops rekindling their flirtatious nature? Now, in the 90s, Psylocke was hitting on Cyclops, but it was Betsy Psylocke. But it was later discussed when Jean and Psylocke were together, right before the events of Legion Quest, or just after Legion Quest, Psylocke was like, oh, that's the Quanin persona taking over. So, you know, technically this is in continuity that it's Quanin Psylocke who is hitting on Cyclops. But anyways, they're dancing really hot and heavy. It sounds like they're about to hook up, but they're like, no, we need to murder 3K. We need to murder Joseph. That's what they want to do. You know, and this coming after Cyclops talking to Rogue saying that he was going to calm down. You know, there are a couple of things here that I just want to point out. I wish we had more interactions with Scott and Emma in this. This feels like a very personal thing for Emma, that she's locked in a room with Sebastian Shaw, that Cyclops would be immediately in her corner because they have a very long history together. And I would love to see Joseph and Rogue have a beat. But again, I don't think anyone here has read a comic pre-Krakoa. The majority of writers haven't read, and same with the editors. Anyways, so there's Temper sipping champagne. Emma takes it, and Temper says, hey, I'm old enough to drink. I don't understand that, because Temper was one of the original Lights. And, you know, after Hope came back to the present and started repowering the human race. We had the five lights. Temper was one of those original lights. So, that would, I assume she was about like 14 when that power set came up. So like, what is it 7 years later? Has it been 7 years since the events of Second Coming? Again, sure, of course, that could be it, but that's you're establishing a timeline there. And again, this line here where Emma's like, I'll take that, and Temper says, hey, I'm old enough to drink, and Emma says, sure you are, darling. I can't be expected to remember all your names, but I'm certain you didn't receive an invite, child. Ta-ta. That was one of your five lights. Like, I get the humor there with Emma. I get it. I truly do. Emma Brace Frost, I love saying her full name. She is a teacher first and foremost. She loves her students. That is what makes Emma such a great character, is that she has this cold, witty exterior, but at the core of it, she has the biggest heart in the room. She loves to take care of her students. She is a good teacher. And she would not do that to Temper. She would take the glass from Temper, yes, because Temper is probably underage. So again, however you're reading this, you can read it. But I think Emma would certainly know Temper because she was one of the original lights that brought mutant kind back from the brink of extinction. And I don't think Emma would be so condescending to a student, especially in today's modern world, right? Like Emma would be very cautious of a student's esteem. And I think she would have if she truly believed that Temper did not get an invite, she would have ushered Temper out, being like, we have a child here. It's not safe for you. This is Sebastian Shaw. I have seen Sebastian Shaw take young mutant women and manipulate them. I don't want you around here. That's what Emma would do, not make a joke. Sorry. All right, so Temper here hooks up with Ransom. And then here's Kitty Pryde dancing with someone we don't know just yet, but will be revealed in the coming pages. But Kitty's having a very sensual dance, and she's like, I can't believe I'm enjoying myself at a Sebastian Shaw event, because she has the history with Shaw, where Shaw tried to kill her during the Marauders story, and it was impossible to resurrect her. And then we have the return of the Emma and Neymar no amor romance. I like these two together, and I don't mind seeing them here again. Like Emma, your beat with Emma is like, she's on guard. She's like, I can't believe Sebastian Shaw brought us all here. She has an exchange with like Cyclops about it, and Cyclops is like, I'm in your corner, dear. She goes, I'm gonna go investigate some more on what's going on. She sees Temper, sends Temper back, and then she's here like, well, since I'm here and Namor's looking so delicious, let me go hook up quickly. That is what I would expect the beat to be a bit more. But I don't like this panel here with Emma. She doesn't look really good. Like, I guess Emma has always been a very done up character for me. Like, she would have more striking features. And I guess that's what the artist is doing here. But it's not a flattering angle. And, her half eyelids. Like, is Emma already drunk? But she looks great with the mask. So does Noah Mode. I think this shot right here is very fluid. I like it. The X-Men are basically, this issue is just to get the X-Men in like BDSM costumes and have them all hook up. That's truly what it is. I mean, look at Wolverine there. So they're plotting to kill Joseph 3K because they're going to wipe out mutant kind with a virus. And Psylocke is like, I've murdered people, in plain sight before. This is going to be tough. She breaks her champagne glass, has the glass out, which, you know what? Fair enough. You're going to go up against Magneto's clone, Joseph. You're going to want to stab him with glass. But, it also doesn't make any sense because, like, they're talking about their plot right here in front of everyone. Let me go back to the page. It's like right here. They're just in the middle of the dance floor. I get it. They can't psychically communicate because of the aforementioned power dampers, but you'd think they'd be whispering a bit more. And you would think, because it's Cyclops and Psylocke, that all eyes are on them. So, I don't buy that they're going to be able to kill him out in the open just like that. That's a horrible plan. This is clearly not the time to do it. And again, where are the priorities for these characters? Like, all of mutant, your big players in mutant kind are all in this gala, and Sebastian Shaw is up to something, and we're going to find out it's a pretty awful something in the big reveal. So why aren't they doing? Why aren't they protecting their people here? It's just they're all so out of character. Anyways, so they arrive into Sebastian Shaw's quarters, and Sebastian Shaw is dead. Like, he's so dead. Now, I love this idea that Sebastian Shaw, king of the Hellfire Club, is murdered. And he's such a despicable person. Everyone in the room is a suspect. Everyone. Toad is in this issue. He was there a couple pages back, and I thought Shaw gave him such a wonderful little nod to his history, saying, you've been involved in mutant affairs longer than most people in this room. You deserve to be at this party, Toad. I love that. All the way to Emma, who has a long sordid history with Shaw. Of course she would want him dead. Cyclops, everything that happened during the events of Dark Phoenix. There's Kitty, everything that happened with Marauders. Everyone is a suspect. I love that. I gotta tell you, they don't really play into it. They mention it, but it's not a factor into the plot. It's just to reaffirm the continuity, which, again, thank you. They don't mention Dark Phoenix. They don't really talk about Emma's sordid history. It's implied. But, with Marauders, it's mentioned because they need to address Kitty as a suspect. But again, I don't think anyone really cares about the X books who are writing and editing them right now pre-Krakoa. That's just my opinion. Again, it's unfortunate. I think Gail Simone and Jed MacKay are obviously telling some more fleshed out stories. So yes, I will give Jed MacKay and Gail Simone the pass. But the other writers, I think they just hopped on board during lockdown with Krakoa. Anyways, hey, where's Emma Frost? She seemed awfully angry at Mr. Shaw earlier. Oh, look at Toad trying to misdirect everyone, pointing a finger to everyone. I wonder if it could be Toad. So, we come in and everyone finds Emma, and Namor is like, no, Emma's with me. And Kitty's like, ha ha ha, score one for the White Queen. And Emma's like, don't be crass, darling. And so she could not have killed Shaw. Today's the first day. She says this, today's the first day of my never having to think about him ever again. That's such a weird line, in my opinion. Like, I get what she's saying. She's being catty. But Sebastian Shaw is a character who's really put Emma through the ringer. And so, no, Sebastian Shaw being murdered and it being a mystery, she could be like, good riddance. I'm glad this guy's dead. Mutant kind is a safer world now that he's dead. But Emma, you're going to be haunted by some of those inner demons that Sebastian Shaw did to you. Again, I'm only bringing this up because of what happens at the end. If Emma would have just been like, good riddance, I'll never have to think of you again, I'd be like, great beat for Emma. But so we're going to see a little later down the line here. So, we get a couple beats here with Rogue and Gambit just wanting to go back home to be with their cat and being with a team that sees them more as parents. I don't know if I like that. I get it. They're a married couple. I'm like that too in my marriage. I'm like, I just want to go home. But this is entertainment value. Perhaps I'm being nitpicky. It's a fine beat. I just want to be very clear. And this is where we find out that Wolverine discovers that Toad is somehow involved with Sebastian Shaw's murder. And the big reveal is it was Mystique and Destiny and their brotherhood, of which consists of Toad. The person dancing with Kitty is Mastermind, the original Mastermind's daughter, and Empath. And gasp, what do you mean? You guys are the ones who murdered Shaw. The timeline for Shaw being murdered doesn't make sense because he was murdered probably 20 minutes, but we saw him 10 minutes before. The first thing everyone should say is maybe those psychic dampers aren't working. And so we saw something we were not, we were shown something that wasn't real. Or the next obvious thing is, drumroll, a shapeshifter. The second they said, how could Shaw be dead for 20 minutes when we just saw him 10 minutes earlier? I was like, it's a shapeshifter, it's Mystique. And lo and behold, and I didn't read any spoilers. That's it. What infuriates me is that the characters themselves didn't even question what could have done it, right? Could it have been a shapeshifter? Could it have been an illusion? It's just, again, these writers, they're just not very good. They don't know how to write intelligent characters. They don't know how to write an intelligent story surrounding a mystery. Again, there's a reason why mysteries, it's its own genre. There is an art to writing a mystery. So if you want to do a murder mystery, kind of like an escape room style X story, great. Hire a writer to do it. Hire a writer to map it out and do it. It's just, this is like it's an insult to our intelligence is all I'm going to say. I hate being spoken down to as a reader. Anyways, so Mystique and Destiny are the ones who did it because, as we find out, Shaw had access to Forge's gun that eliminates the X gene, the one that Storm got blasted with, and he was going to use it on everyone who did not accept him as king of mutant kind and his plan. He was going to use it on all of the people there tonight, and the X-Men would have lost their X genes. And so Wolverine's like, well, Shaw may have had that technology, but now you have that technology and you guys are more dangerous than Shaw, which, yes, Mystique and Destiny together are more dangerous than Shaw, without a doubt. And Destiny's like, see? And it's Ash. They destroyed the machine, which good on them. I like that. Here's the thing. Mystique, for me, is a cold-blooded assassin. However, Destiny is servicing a larger, bigger picture. So together they work really well. It's almost like Destiny is the doctor and Mystique is the scout. I don't like the direction with Mystique that she has secretly been a caring, loving mother. For me, Mystique is cold-blooded assassin. That is where Mystique should be, and that her holding, the only time she really feels emotion is with Destiny, and that scene where she's about to throw baby Nightcrawler off the waterfall and she begins to cry. That is a rare instance where it shows emotion, because even her throwing her baby as a cold-blooded assassin, even that is a step too far for the character. You know what I mean? So that is what how I like my Mystique. She's been written a bit soft, since Destiny came back in Inferno. I like this return to form. She has scars on her face because that's also a recent direction for the character. Wolverine's like, great. I'm not going to talk about this. Goodbye. He just waves his hand. He goes back to the main party. The gates open up again. I don't understand this technology. Someone else can explain it to me, because again, I'm not following the X books closely in the last year. So I guess they have technology that allows them to go walk through gates. Anything but Krakoa, right? We're going to have a Hellfire Gala. We're going to have all these brand new costumes that come out of nowhere, and we're going to have gates that can transport you from anywhere on the planet. So you basically want Krakoa without just giving Krakoa back. It's insane. But the party ends and everyone goes back home, and Jubilee's like, someone just murdered Sebastian Shaw. We're not going to question it. And Wolverine's like, just trust me. Like, can you just trust me on this, Jubilee? Let's let it go. And the story ends. Or does it? Because then we get a post-credit scene a few days later where Wolverine invites Emma Grace Frost for a drink. And he says Sebastian Shaw was killed by a nerve gas, and his nose hairs weren't fried off. And if he had inhaled that nerve gas, his nose hair would have been fried off. So the only thing that could make sense is that he died of a psychic attack. And Emma's like, I don't know what you mean. I have no idea. And she's here like, have you shared this information with anyone else? And Logan's like, no, I don't intend to. The man had to go. I've come to realize how he went doesn't matter a whole lot. And Emma's like, I see. So why are we? And he's here like, I just thought we could have a drink together. another round? And Emma's like, absolutely. Okay. So the implication here is that Emma was one step ahead of everyone. Emma must have known that Mystique and Destiny were going to show up to try to kill Shaw and allowed it to happen. Emma somehow bypassed the psychic dampers and she psychically attacked Sebastian Shaw and killed him. My question would have been, why now? Sebastian Shaw has been a horrible, despicable character, especially to Emma. But Emma has always either dethroned him, had him in prison. Why now murder him? Was it that he was going to use that technology on fellow mutants to eliminate their X genes? That she was here like, this is a step too far. I'm done. Because we saw in Marauders after what happened with Kate, and Emma loves Captain Kate, Kitty Pryde, that they would rather him just be severely injured and incapacitated than resurrected in a new body or killed, right? Because they could have easily just killed him and left him in the resurrection protocols, but Emma wanted him to suffer. So why now did Emma want him to die? Is there a much larger story on the horizon, perhaps with DNX, perhaps past that? I wish I could say I have faith that they're telling a much larger story here and they want it Emma wanted Shaw off the table for that reason. I just think this is a post credit that they wanted to add a little twist here with not much thought behind it. So I don't know. Again, I'm not upset. We know Emma kills. Emma murdered Adrian, right? Emma has murdered someone during AVX. It was implied that she killed some humans. So Emma, killing isn't what necessarily bothers me per se. Is that Emma is just a bit more strategic with these things. And Emma's not a murderer. She's not just murdering her enemies for the sake of murdering her enemies, right? Emma's playing a much larger hand here. So I'm not wild about some of these character beats, as I've already mentioned. And I think Jubilee, is resigned back to just being junior member of the team because she knows something's up and she just defers to Wolverine. I would have liked it this last scene had it been Jubilee with Emma, and they have the Generation X connection, obviously, and Jubilee would have been the one who figured it out. I think that would have been much stronger. And Jubilee could have said something like, I saw what Adrian, your sister, did to our team. And throughout time, I've seen what Shaw has done to you. I get what happened. I get why you did what you did, Emma. And they cheers. And that would have been a wonderful character beat. But again, I hate to play Monday morning quarterback with all these things. It's just more of, I just don't think there's a thoughtful, compelling story behind this. But, you guys let me know your feels below. But drop your feels in the comments and we will discuss this community.